Hello everybody, this is Silent Eye. I wanted to show off a game of a deck I've been working on. It's Water Warriors. It mixes a small water engine with warriors. I played it during Rated GOAT. I thought the deck was pretty interesting. This is the game I wanted to show off. So he wins. He goes first. I open Solemn Judgment, DD Warrior Lady, Tribe Infecting Pirates, Knock, and Delinquent Duo. He sets and pass. I draw a Greed off top. I Delinquent Duo, get 2 cards out of hand. I get very strong hit with BLS. He scapegoats, I clear one of the tokens and pass turn. I have the Tribe for a follow-up for the scapegoat tokens. Adds back the Sinister Serpent. TDs to get 2 TDs to hand, which is always pretty good. Now he has basically infinite light targets in graveyard for chaos plays. He tribes. I decide to soul him here to clear the tribe. Jar and instep. Get a Mobius to hand. Decide to clear the goat tokens, discarding Mobius. He's got the Mirror Force, which felt bad, but thankfully I had Book of Moon for somewhat stabilization. Go ahead and set the knock. Trying to bait him out with a possible trap card. Going for 15. Set a Judgment. Sets Sinister. I decide the knock. Going for 15 again. He just decides to play defensively. I probably should have knocked again here, but I figured he was on Flip Monsters, so I thought it would be fine just to go for Mystic Swordsman and save the knock. It was probably a bit of a misplay, though. I couldn't have known it was a Sangan, but I probably should have played guessing it could have been a Sangan and just went ahead and knocked. And plus, if I hit something like a Moth, banishing all their mobs is more valuable than just destroy it. So that was definitely a misplay, but we live and learn. He takes a while to think here. Grabs the Tsukiyomi. I go for 15. He MSTs the knock, which I was, for the most part, okay with. I go ahead and decide the Judgment here, because I figured it'd be too much value. Unfortunately, he had the Sork in hand, which felt really bad. The suit just clears my board. I draw the Sinister, and there's not much I can do here. He got the game. I feel like I could have played that better, but it is what it is. I decided to go first. I side in 3 trap dust shoots, 2 of the anti-Flageist chaos guy, and 2 mind controls because I knew he was on flip. So I sided pretty heavily against his deck. I go for trap dust shoot. No hits, but the information of Torrential Tribute was extremely valuable here. I decide the blind MST here. I probably should have just held it because I knew basically all of his face downs, more or less. But I figured if I could get the TT out early, it would have been valuable. But it wasn't really doing anything when I was just beating him up a breaker. And I just do that for like 4 turns. I don't really think he had anything in hand. Yeah, he had a heavy and 2 T-Dragons in hand. He sets a train. I get the knock, which is pretty good. And I just go for breaker beatdown and That can be the problem with TT sometimes, is if your opponent has knowledge you have a TT, they just don't commit the board and just beat you up. And then I just wipe back row and then go for game here. I side out a few of my cards, but I can't exactly remember what the sides were in game 3. I think it was pretty similar to what it was in game 1. Because Trap Dust Shoot is pretty decent, even going second if your opponent's on Thunder Dragon. I have Mind Control, Snatch Steal, Rhoda, Trap Dust Shoot, Mirror Force. My hand was crazy. He Trap Dust Shoots me, which he gets no value out of outside of hand knowledge. Which even with hand knowledge, I guess you get knowledge of the Mirror Force, but that's the only thing that's going to be super relevant here. I just decided to reroll to make it easier. I get his knock, which is pretty decent. Nothing crazy, because I didn't really have anything for the knock to target anyways. I Trap Dust Shoot and draw phase. I get rid of the Tsukiyomi. I know he's got Thunder Dragon, Sinister Serpent, Mobius, so I don't really have to worry about anything for a bit. And then I just go for Breaker Beatdown again. I get the Blade Knight off the top. I know that face down's probably a Sinister, so I decide not to use the Mind Control here. Top deck's Moth. This was a tiny bit of a misplay, but I figured he would go for Serpent again, but he got the Moth top deck. Because if I was able to steal his Moth and Delinquent Duo off the Mind Control, there would have been nothing he could have done there. Get the Dawn Zalug, Blade Knight for 2k, and then Dawn for 14 to get the random discard. I get a pretty good discard off of this. I get the Mobius, which was a threat because he could have outed the Snatch Steal and another one of my back row. Both back row are relevant. I'm just hoping out he doesn't have a heavy, because a heavy could almost instantaneously change around the duel. He doesn't. He had a Sinister, a Thunder Dragon, a Tsukiyomi, and Magician of Faith, and that is not really doing anything against my board. Because if he Sukes, it's not going to do anything against any of these. I mean, he could set the Breaker, and it would lose the counter, but then he would stop getting life in the Snatch Steal, and I had game on him the next turn. He had knowledge of the Mind Control and Mirror Force. Anyways, so that wasn't really doing much. But I thought this game was pretty interesting, and I just wanted to show off Water Warriors. It's essentially Warriors, but got a very small water engine in it. Here's the deck list if you are curious. I run 2 Abyss Soldiers, which is arguably one of the best normal summons in GOAT format in my opinion, especially with Sinister Serpent. Blade Knight, because Blade Knight is amazing to grab off of Rhoda. Breaker, because Breaker is one of the best cards in GOAT format. Is just an MST on a monster that's also a 1900 beater. DD Warrior Lady, because also a very good Rhoda target. Dawn for hand control. Exile Force to out face down monsters. 2 Mobius for discard fodder and also to out back row, because some decks are pretty heavy on Sakuratsu armor and Mirror Force and battle traps like that, and he is very good against that. He can also force out things like Torrential Tribute. Mystic Swordsman out level 2, also an amazing target to grab off of Rhoda, and it's very good for outing things like Gravekeeper Spy. Speaking of which, Sasuke is also in the deck to out things like Gravekeeper Spy and a face-up defense position, Chaos Sorcerer, 2 Penguin Soldiers, This is just a pet card. It's discard fodder, and every once in a while the effect will come up. I mean, if you want to cut Penguin Soldier, feel free to. He's kind of mediocre. Sometimes he does come up though. But yeah, Sangan, because he searches out a huge amount of targets: Penguin Soldier, DD Warrior Lady, Dog Zalug, Exile Force, Mystic Swordsman, Sinister Serpent. Just a lot of targets to grab with this guy. This card's amazing. Sinister Serpent, really strong with Tribe Infecting Virus and Abyss Soldier. Tribe Infecting Virus, very good against goat control, and also just really good to immediately out threats like BLS and Sork. 3 Book of Moons, because Book of Moon is very good. Delinquent Duo, you gotta run the Trinity. Graceful Charity, same reason as Delinquent Duo. Arguably the best card in Go, in my opinion. Heavy Storm, Mystical Space Typhoon, pretty standard. 2 Nox, also pretty standard. Pot of Greed, what does it do? Premature Burial, it's pretty good to set up plays where you can exile Force and then preem to exile Force again, or preem to bring back something to tribute for the Mobius, or just bring back one of your more control cards like Sasuke or Mystic Swordsman level 2, stuff like that. It's just a really good card. 2 Reinforcements of the Army, one of the best spells in GOAT format. 1 Snatch Steal, because Snatch Steal is also amazing. Sometimes just as good as the Trinity, depending on the situation. 3 Jar Grades to add consistency, because when you're running cards like Penguin Soldier, you kind of need more consistency. You can add Upstart Goblin, but personally I prefer Jar Grade because you can bait things like MST and Heavy Storm, but it's just up to personal preference. Both are pretty good for deck thinning. 1 Mirror Force because it's Mirror Force. 1 Ring of Destruction because Ring of Destruction. It just sets up. It just allows you to close out games easier, and also very good board removal. 2 Sakus for a Warrior Mirror match. And it's just a pretty decent card. 3 Solemn Judgments. This is for Chaos decks, and it's just pretty versatile. This card can feel kind of bad when you draw it early game, but it's crazy late game. 2 Kaiku because Warriors. 1 Mataza the Zapper. I'll probably cut him for a 3rd Kaiku. He's not terrible in some matchups, but other matchups he doesn't really do anything. Nekomang King, I always run this as a 1 of in the sideboard just in case if somebody's running the stupid FTK deck. 1 Tsukiyomi, this can be really good against Monarchs, and it's also really good against Goat Control if your opponent's on one of those 2 decks. They're kind of more rogue decks, but you do see them every once in a while, and they are pretty good in my opinion. 2 Mind Controls, this is for flip control and also chaos matchups. You can take their moths, you can take their trains to steal advantage. You can also take their Sorks or BLS to banish themselves. There's a lot of uses. This is a very versatile card. I might bring this up to a 3 of. 2 Dust Tornado. This is more so for stuff like Panda Burn or very back row heavy decks. I also think I should be siding more cards against Panda Burn. Maybe cut the Royal Oppression for more cards against Panda Burn, but I haven't been running into a ton of Panda Burn lately. We got 2 Royal Oppressions. This is for the Chaos matchup because honestly, the only card I'm really special summoning with is Preem, and I can just cut the Preem if I'm putting in the Royal Oppressions. This is a very underrated Floodgate in GOAT format, in my opinion. 1 Saku just to be able to side in more against the Warrior matchup. 3 Trap Death Shoots. This is good against a lot of different decks, especially things like Chaos Turbo when they use the Thunder Dragon to discard, and then they almost always have 4 or more cards in hand. And at best, you get rid of their best monster in hand. At worst, you get really good hand knowledge, so it's never a bad card. It's just against certain matchups, it's dead because they'll set their entire hand like Panda Burn, and you're just not getting any value off of it, especially if you go second against some matchups with it. So I don't think it's worth main decking, but it is a very good card. That is the end of the video. I hope you guys have a wonderful